Hi, everyone. Today's special guest is another Lee Ottman from the classic rock band NRG from Freehold, New Jersey. They were one of the famous house bands at the Stone Pony back in the day. Hello, Lee. How are you?
I'm great, buddy. How are you?
Okay, great. It's good to have you on. And of course, I see you got your Orioles fan shirt on.
That's right. There's a little story about this, but I'll tell you later.
Okay. Well, let's give the viewers a little bit of your background first. How'd you get started in music?
Probably like most every musician, when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan in '64, right then I knew what I wanted to do. And my parents were very supportive of me doing that. In fact, my first guitar, I'm not really a guitar player, but my first guitar, my mom worked in a dry cleaners, and the woman who worked with her happened to be driving down the street and saw a beat up old aqua green guitar in a curb being thrown for garbage, brought it home to me, and that's what started me. As the years went by, I realized I really wasn't a guitar player. I was more what I thought a singer and entertainer. So I just started putting bands together. I was lucky enough to play with some great musicians, and pretty much have called it a career all my life.
And where were you born?
Baltimore.
Okay, so that's why
So
you're an Orioles
your connection, right?
When did you come to New Jersey?
I was 1 year old. My dad worked for a company that's still around called Pepperways.
Right.
And, right, and he was a district manager, so they moved him to Jersey. So we first moved to Greenbrook, New Jersey, a small town just like Dunellen is where I really grew up. We lived in Greenbrook for 6 months, then we moved to Dunellen, and I lived there until I was 21, and I moved away from home, and I just started living with musicians and that kind of thing.
Right.
But Baltimore always had my heart.
Great, great, great. So you're basically a singer in a band, and what is that band?
Oh, there you go. Well, NRG, I like to think, was the band that maybe I'll be remembered for these days. And it's really been for the last, 15, 16 years. I have an acoustic trio called Acoustic NRG. As I've gotten older and I've seen the business change, especially the bar business changed a lot, I put together a trio, myself, a guitar player, keyboard player, we all sing. And we've been lucky. We do close to 200 gigs a year. The majority of them are private, corporate, private gigs. That's really been our niche for a number of years. We will still do a bar or a restaurant occasionally, but again, we've really found our niche with this. In pre-pandemic times, again, it's usually close to 200 gigs. Although we've been so lucky when the doors were sort of open back in June, when things lightened up a little bit. From then until now, we've been as busy as we've ever been. Fortunately, not like this weekend, but the weather's been decent. Most of our gigs at country clubs and things are outside, so we haven't had an issue. The next few months, who knows?
Right, exactly. Now, the band NRG, as I remember, and of course, you have some fond memories of playing at the Stone Pony as one of those bands.
Well, on Monday nights, we were with you, was your dance contest. And the story that still survives, in fact, it's in, I think, New Jersey Magazine from a few years ago, was you had your dance contest and Bruce came, was on our break, and you did your dance contest and he lost. I think he's still doing pretty good these days, the dance contest.
Not much of a dancer.
The Mondays are great there because what I loved about it was a lot of the other musicians were off on Monday nights. So they would pop in. Just great times. Stone Pony Club, Xanadu.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
All right, so now let's bring things up to date here now. We've got NRG playing the outdoor venues. which is kind of lucky for you because that's what they were really looking for. They weren't really looking for bands to have to put a PA up and everything. So the Acoustic NRG actually fit the bill for most of the places you play.
It does. It's more of a background thing where we're not so much the show. Over the last couple of years, I live in Freehold. I have a lot of ties to the town, and Freehold has always had the downtown concert series for years and years. And I put the full band, back together a few times. In fact, we were lucky to have you one year come and introduce us.
Exactly, sure.
So each summer I would put the band back together with as many original members as possible to do that and to do a couple of other outside shows. This year we were booked, but of course what happened. But as far as the trio goes, yeah, the outside and it's been a perfect venue for what we do.
Now, your love for the Orioles goes back to your days in Baltimore. And, most of the people that we've had on these days has been Yankees, Mets, and Phillies fans. So it's unusual to have somebody that still digs a team from out of the area. And I'm sure you don't remember when you were 1 year old about the teams back then, but I'm sure you've gone back and sort of researched the team back in the days when you were down in Baltimore.
Well, yeah, well, I'll tell you, really, I think what helped with the connection, you're right. When I was 1 year old, I had no idea. We were very close. Pretty much all my relatives, my aunts, uncles, cousins, all lived in Maryland and stayed there. So I got to say, for the first 14 or 15 years of my life, we would go and visit them all the time. So there was my connection. And of course, they were Orioles fans. My cousin, actually, where I got this shirt, I lost my cousin about 10 years ago, and they sent me his shirt. And usually I just keep it in a drawer. I just wanted to save it, but I put it on for this today. But that was really my connection. When my dad would bring me, instead of going to a Yankees game, we would go down to Memorial Stadium, which it used to be called, in Baltimore. That was the greatest thing. And I remember 1 year I was so excited, he got me tickets as a surprise. It was a doubleheader. It's like, yay. And who are they playing? The Yankees. And not that I had anything against the Yankees, but I could see the Yankees anytime.
Sure. Yes,
so it just so happened this doubleheader he got me tickets for was the Yankees. And Baltimore won both games, so that was great.
Wow. I remember going to Camden Yards when it first opened, and I had to pull some serious strings to try and get tickets because we were headed down there for a visit and, to see the waterfront and to, of course, get crabs and things like that. The seafood is tremendous down there.
Yep.
But I remember going there and the place being packed to the gills. I think we got the last 2 tickets that were available. And of course, like I said, we had to pull some strings to get those. And remember seeing Cal Ripken playing third base and just unbelievable to be part of that experience with the Baltimore Orioles. Now, your fond memories of Baltimore and the Orioles back then, 60s and 70s, you say?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the 60s was when with both baseball and football, I think 65, 66 is when I was 10 years old. So I was really starting to get interested in sports. I was playing Little League. I was about the Beatles still, but I was all about the Orioles and the Green Bay Packers, actually. Frank Robinson was the man for me. He was Pal, Brooks Robinson, McNally, all the Orioles players. I loved them, but Frank Robinson did it for me. He put out a book called My Life is Baseball. And I had that book. Lee, I was looking for the book. I wanted to hold it up during our chat. And I can't find it. But it was the greatest. We went to a Yankees game in New York. My sister's best friend at the time, her dad was a Major League umpire, Frank Umont.
Oh, wow. Sure. The name's familiar.
Yeah. And, we went to a Yankees game. They were playing the Orioles in New York. And Frank came up to see us. And I had a baseball. And he said, give me the ball. I said, okay. I wasn't thinking. I was, 10, 11 years old, whatever. He came back about a half hour ago. He went into the Orioles dugout and had every single player, Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson.
Oh, wow.
The whole deal. Belanger, all sign it and give it back to me.
My goodness.
Greatest thing ever. Yeah.
I had played with a guy named Billy Williams Jr., and his father was Billy Williams, the umpire. And everything that he wore on the field was given to him by a Major League Baseball player. So
Wow.
he had Bud Harrelson's spikes. He had his glove was from another major leaguer, and everything that he had as far as his equipment was obtained by his father. So it was amazing how the umpires have such power over ball players. You know, it's like saying, "Oh, hey, my kid needs a pair of spikes. Can I have yours?"
Yep. You got Bob. It's crazy.
Those were some great players, and one of my favorites actually was Boog Powell, being a first baseman. And then when we went to Camden Yards, the first thing I wanted to do was to go see Boog's Barbecue, because he's got a barbecue stand in the stadium. Actually, I think there's one in the stadium and one outside as you're walking in, so you can grab food on your way into the ballpark as well too. So, but Brooks Robinson.
Was Boog, besides having that, was he also involved in the management at some point, like in the office work, or no?
I'm not
later
sure.
on.
You know, he might have been an assistant or an advisor or something like that. You know, he's always part of the Orioles organization in some way, shape, or form. But I remember seeing, and it was amazing because, you know, you hear stories about ball players, and when you watch them on TV, you don't get to see things that happen between innings and things like that.
Right.
And Cal Ripken at that point in time was moved from shortstop to third base. Mm-hmm. So, you know, how teams would actually warm up between innings, and, you know, there'd be a little infield throw and stuff like that.
Sure.
He was taking ground balls almost near the dugout from the third base line. Mm-hmm. So the throw was actually almost like an outfield throw for him from third base. And it was amazing. He was just throwing strikes to the first baseman. I said, my goodness, look at him. He's throwing. You're never going to make that throw from third base, but it's kind of like when pitchers are warming up, they start out, you know, doing long toss, which is 90 feet and more. By the time they're ready to start warming up, 60 feet 6 inches seems like, you know, right next to you. So, but there was some
great Cal play. Wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I remember, you know, when the pandemic first started, there were classic baseball games put on TV, which I thought was tremendous because you got to see things that you might have seen once, but now you've got, you know, the more attention span to see, of course, Jim Palmer pitching in the World Series against the Mets. Yeah. You know, I never saw that in person. I saw it on TV, but didn't remember what it was like. And
with no commercials.
Yeah, and Memorial Stadium back then was in the middle of a neighborhood. You know, if you hit a home run, you might have hit a house.
Exactly right. Yep.
You know,
number 66, the Orioles won the series against the Dodgers.
Right. Yeah.
And in '69 is when your Mets took over.
That's right.
That's right. Took them,
but it was really a tremendous thing to watch them on TV.
Sure.
See the great Oriole players. I mean, they had an all-star almost at every position, and that's why they were so good for so many years.
Yeah. You know what I think that and I think it's happened in all sports, but especially in baseball, to me anyway, is those days it just seemed like more of a team sport. These players stayed with the teams for years.
Yes, right.
And now every year, I know it's the way of the world and it's business and all these things, and I guess I get it, but it's hard for me to stay allegiant to a team when they're constantly changing. I'm allegiant to the name, but you like those players, you know, back in those days, that's what existed a lot more than exists now.
Well, Robinson was the prime example, though, of being traded from the National League to the American League because
the Reds
thought that the Reds thought that he was just about done, and then all of a sudden his career is resurrected from change of scenery. Sometimes that's the theory behind a trade, is that, you know, the guy needs a change of scenery, which actually happened to Nolan Ryan too. You know, the Mets gave up on him because they didn't think he could throw strikes. Although he did in that one series against Baltimore. I think that was his first He came up as a rookie then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he pitched in relief and pitched really well.
Right. And he went to the Expos, yes?
No, he was with the Mets originally, and then he got traded to California.
California.
The trade was Ryan for Jim Fregosi.
Jim Fregosi. Yep, California. Yep.
Third base.
I had the baseball cards.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's the one thing I kind of miss sometimes, you know, when I was a little kid. As soon as I got any kind of money, I went to the grocery store to buy baseball cards. And I still, you know, have a bunch of them today. I have a Roger Clemens one that's sitting nearby. And I don't know if it's a rookie card or not. But there's some people that actually thought I looked like him back in the day.
Huh. And, did you buy the box of baseball cards or just packs?
Packs, only packs.
I buy the box, and
you know
you missed one card.
Yeah, right, exactly. That was later on in life. I was able to buy, like, you spend $10 and you got the whole package. But back then, you know, riding your bike to the corner store to buy a.
Yep. Good times.
I think they were a nickel or so back then. You know,
yep.
Whenever you got.
The gum was stale. You know, the whole thing.
Oh, the gum was always stale, but then, you know, after a while chewing it, it was unique in that respect, because there was always, you know, that's the bonus, bubble gum in the pack. But I remember, you know, we had moved so many times when I was young that I think in order to clean out the house, the baseball cards were thrown in the garbage.
If you moved through Jersey or different? From
Jersey City down the shore to Neptune was a big move. And I think the house got cleaned out, and a lot of my baseball cards went with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Lee, it's really, really great to catch up with you and hear the stories. And, you know, it's just great to have an Orioles fan as part of our family here now on Round the Horn.